Hi everybody, welcome back to Plastic Models by Regular Dude and the viewer's choice build, Eduard M4A1. So in the last part I left off, done some of the painting and all that, installed the running gear, started working on the weathering. So in the initial video for this, my plan was to go, beginning to end on the build and see what happened when it came to paint and weathering, because that's usually where things start to get a little more complicated and it's not as easy to video. So that's the way it's turned out. So basically I'm just going to hit the highlights of the weathering I'm doing and demonstrate a little bit of what I'm trying to accomplish. So what I've done first is I did the filter over the paint initially using brown wash by 502 Abteilung oils, and then went on from there. So the first step I used Ultimate Weathering Wash by Ultimate Modeling Products Dark Dirt, which is a clay wash, and basically I put it on the whole kit. And I started with the bottom, I wiped it down, then I applied some light dirt over that and wiped that down. So this is kind of what I ended up with, a little bit dirty. Now I'm going to do some more dust because I want it to be a dusty looking vehicle. I'm just trying to dirty it up a little bit first. So as you can see, there's a lot of dirt and stain buildup and so forth. So I did that. So then I went ahead with the dark dirt over the rest of the vehicle. Now once I got it on there and I started wiping it off, one thing I've discovered about the dark dirt in comparison to the light dirt, I don't know if it's just this particular bottle or if it's this way all the time, but it just seems a lot harder to remove from the vehicle, whether I use, flat finish, satin finish, or gloss finish. It doesn't matter. It just seems really difficult to get off. So at that point I decided to take it in and I'd put the whole thing on there, tried to wipe some of it off. Really wasn't working the way I wanted, so I went in, washed it all down really well with the kitchen sink, and came back, wiped it down a little bit, and then applied, once it was really dry, I let it dry overnight, I applied a whole coating of the light dirt on the hull, the main part of the tank, and the turret. Now on the turret, as you can see here, I've already started working with it here, and basically just rubbing it off with a Q-tip, cotton bud, whatever, in a downward fashion to create streaking kind of effect. Now we got something weird going on here, so I'm going to have to put some more on there and wipe that off. So that's what it looked like before I started wiping it down. Looked like this. So I continued on around and just creating a really dusty, dirty, streaky look to it. Now the nice thing about this particular kind of wash is you can wash it off. If you're working on it and it's like, man, that just didn't look right, just take it over to the sink or wherever, take it to the bathtub, take it to the shower with you, whatever you want to do, and just wash it all down, and you can start over. And in this case it's looking pretty good so far. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go through the whole thing and I'm going to wipe it all down like this really well and see what I come up with, and then after that, then I'll think about what I'm going to do next, as far as further weathering. So I'm going to work on this for a little bit, wiping it all down, changing out, making sure I have fresh Q-tips here. and get it all washed down. Now, if you really want to get a really streaky effect, I've done this before. You can get a brush moistened just with water and just kind of streak it down randomly, and it'll give it a more of a little bit fresher streaky effect, like, you know, it hasn't been streaked for, hasn't looked like this for a long time. It's just, you know, it's gotten wet or gotten moisture on it more recently. So that's something to keep in mind if that's the kind of effect you're wanting to go with. So anyway, I'll keep working on this, come back once I have it all scrubbed off, and take a look and see what we have. Okay, let's take a look at where I am now. So here's the turret. Basically, I did as I described earlier with the clay wash, scrubbed it all off, leaving it in the edges and crannies and nooks and all that business. I've got the machine gun painted. I got the hatch, the headache pad done. I'm gonna have to do a little bit of weathering on that, as well as on the inside of the hatch. I got the periscope painted, and got the I need to do a little bit of touch up, but I got the mask taken off of the periscope, so there's that. The hull itself, I've got some more. Now this looks kind of shiny right now, but it needs to dry a little bit more, and I'm going to do a little bit more pigment work. But I used the Vallejo acrylic splash mud and an old toothbrush, not my current one, thank goodness, and just flicked some of the mud on there and on the side just to give a little bit of splatter, not too much, because again, it's supposed to be in a dry environment. I got the underside here, in here with the Vallejo. Oh, wait a minute, let's see. No, I used the MIG light dust color, as it most closely matched the clay wash, the light clay wash that I used, light mud. Now this is all shiny as well because I put some pigment on there and then used the pigment fixer, the MIG pigment fixer, applied with my fine point applicator. Same thing in the front here and all around the sides. This one, as you can see, is not as dusty looking underneath, because once this dries, then I'll scrub some more dry stuff in there as well as on the back. So that's where it sits. Now once I do that, I'll be putting like some oil and fuel stains. I've already put some, but I wanted to do it kind of layerish, in kind of layers. So I have some that's covered in dust, and then I'm going to have some more fresh stuff around here just to mix it up a little bit. Some oil drips, some staining around the edge of the hatch, just to add a little bit of variety there. Same thing up here. Did the pad here, removed the, trying not to touch the outside because I don't want to leave any fingerprints. That's one thing about clay washes and pigments, is you got to be real careful that you don't leave fingerprints. So, you know, generally my grip hand, I'd be using a glove, but I'm not right now because I'm just showing you. I got the mask peeled off of there, and if you hold it in the light just right, you can see the light coming through there from the other side, so that's kind of cool. So as you can see, just by doing the weathering and stuff, it really makes the tools look a lot more used and weathered. Here and here, I'm going to use a pencil like this, just like I did on the machine gun, to burnish up some of the edges of the shovel, just like it would be on a real shovel. You know, the points where it gets scraped down to the metal on a real shovel. Pencil works really good. It's really easy to apply. If you don't like it, it's easy to remove. And you can smear it around a little bit with like a Q-tip or something. Especially these Tamiya Q-tips with the points on them. They're really, they're really hard. So they're good for blending the edges thusly. So once all this dries, those probably won't dry till tomorrow. Did it on the drive sprockets as well. Once it dries, it'll look a lot more dusty, and then I'll also be applying a little bit more dry pigments on there. Then what I'll do is I'll take some of my other washes. I think I'll use my acrylic washes. Again, this is off the cuff. I've never done the same weathering twice. And I'll flick some of that in there just to add a little bit of, you know, variety up underneath there, so it's just not so uniform looking. And once I get all that done, the tracks are pretty much done. All I will have to do, here's the tracks. And what I did is I just used kind of a, let's see, what color did I use? I used red brown, Tamiya red brown XF64, and I used that for my dirty rusty color, and then put some, and you can barely see it through, and then I used one of my, the light dirt wash. I applied on the whole thing, rubbed it all down, so it gave a nice dirty, dusty effect in between the chevrons and stuff. As you can see, it kind of got down in the joints between the track pads. So these are pretty much ready to go. Now once I put all this on here, I'm going to do a really super light spray of probably XF57 buff, or I might use this model color buff. It's a little bit yellower than the Tamiya version, and it'll give it kind of a, it'll be ultra thin, but it'll kind of blend everything together without destroying too much of the weathering detail that's there. So once I get that, all that stuff dries, I can put the tracks on and start doing that other stuff, and I should be able to wrap this up here in the next couple of days. So that's where I am so far. So I'm going to let this stuff dry and come back, we'll take a look at it. Okay, fast forward here a few minutes, or maybe a little bit longer, and here it is. I finished up the weathering, got the tracks mounted, and this is the finished product, I should say. I finished up the tracks. I added a bit more of the light dirt clay wash in between the chevrons just to make it look a little more dusty. Then all I had to do was just add some more pigments on the side to get rid of the darkness of the bogies, and to make them a little bit lighter than the rest of the vehicle due to being closer to the ground and the source of dust. So this is it, the Eduard M4A1 Sherman 1/35 scale viewer's choice build. And I have to say it was an enjoyable kit, went together well, no problems, everything fit perfectly. The tracks, I really liked these Kaizen tracks. They just really seem to work well, and I definitely would recommend them for anybody who wants to try something other than, say, Fruel or kit tracks. And the price is decent on them. Let's see. Self-critique, I think it's a little bit darker than I would have liked it, but that was because of an experiment I tried using the Ultimate Model wash, clay wash in the dark dirt. I put that all on there first, and as I mentioned earlier, for some reason it doesn't seem to clean up as easily as the light dirt does, so it kind of stained it a little bit darker than I really wanted, but in the end it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. You can still see the difference between the black portions of the camouflage and the olive drab. So overall, I'm pretty well stoked with it. I don't know if I'll do that dark wash again, or if I do, I'll make sure my gloss coat is a lot slicker, but I don't think I'll try that experiment again, at least on you know, an armored vehicle. I just really don't think it's necessary. I think just putting a filter, an oil filter on it is enough, and then put the light dirt clay wash and then rub it off just to give it a dusty effect, if you know, if I'm wanting to go for a dusty type vehicle as opposed to wetter conditions. My streaking turned out kind of the way I wanted it. I wanted to make it look like, you know, it was a dusty vehicle, that at times it had, you know, maybe moisture or rain run down the sides and leave vertical staining, and that kind of worked. You know, it's something I can work on for in the future, but it did turn out the way I wanted, I think. Through all of the filters and clay washes and everything else, I kind of dig how the handles turned out of the wood portions of these tools. That kind of worked pretty good. But overall, it's a really good kit. I would definitely recommend it. The Asuka kits are really nice. I'd have to say it's a good kind of midway point between, say, Tamiya and Dragon. There's not as many parts as a Dragon kit, and there's none of the fit surprises that you can sometimes get, and there's not a lot of leftover parts like you get with a with a Dragon kit. But it does have a little more parts than a Tamiya kit would, I think, and so it's kind of a good balance, and I think it's well within any, with the exception of some of the photo etch parts, I think it's well within the abilities of most beginning to intermediate modelers. It works good, and the kit tracks, just in fairness, they're good. I just prefer the Kaizen tracks, and one of the things I was afraid of is because this has workable suspension on it, meaning the suspension arms are loose, I was afraid that by using the kit vinyl tracks, if there was any snugness to them, that it might pull one side up of the suspension, making it look weird, because, you know, this goes up like that. But I don't think that'd be an issue, because I pull these pretty tight and they just seem to pop right down. So and this length of track is the exact length of the kit tracks once put together, so there wouldn't be any difference in the tension. But being that these are good tracks, I could probably use them on another vehicle that may not have as good a tracks as that. So that's it. That is the end of the viewer's choice build of the M4A1 by Eduard in 1/35 scale. So I hope you enjoyed following along. Sorry the weathering and painting portions started getting kind of scattered, but it's just too tough to do a step-by-step kind of thing on that, so I just kind of have to explain it, you know, kind of after the fact. So I'll work on that in future, see if it works out better, but for now, that's pretty much the way a step-by-step build's going to have to be. So again, thanks for joining me here on Plastic Models by a Regular Dude and the first viewer's choice build. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, any suggestions on weathering, painting, assembly, any other things, just put them in the comments below. I'd appreciate it. I'd like to hear what you have to say. So for now, that's it. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you all later.